Hello and welcome to I Am with Eric Faria. I am your host, and it is my pleasure to have here with me today James Young, who is one of the co-founders of Queery. Hi, James.
Hello. So
How
good
are
to
you
see
today?
you.
Thank
I'm
you.
Good. Thanks for having me here.
Well, thank you for being here. And I would like to start with the question that is probably on everyone's mind. What is Queery?
So Queery is a company that my partners and I found. We introduce ourselves sometimes as James and the Jeffs because I'm married to one. His name is Jeff with a J.
Yeah.
And then there's Jeff with a G. So I'm James and the Jeffs. And and we wanted to do something. We saw Black Panther, and we came out of the theaters thinking, wow, that was such a great film. It had all these people of color.
Yeah.
It had all these women with prominent roles, a princess who does science. And,
I know.
And we walked out.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, holy moly, right? And then we said we wanted something, we thought about taking that to the next level, and we thought, what would it be like if we could have, in mainstream media, queer superheroes, right? What would that look like? A queer representation in the same kind of movies. And so we talked to our friend Jeff with a G, who's an artist, and we started playing with the idea of creating a comic book or something. We didn't know what we were doing. So anyway, after many runs at it over and over again, we started coming up with this idea that we wanted to take queer theory and share it with other people, share it with mainstream folks in comical and fun ways. And so that's how we came up with Queery. Queery is a mashup of the word queer theory.
Oh, I see. Okay, so queer theory. And what exactly would you like for people to know or learn that they might not know about in terms of queer theory and queer representation?
Right, so queer theory essentially offers folks an opportunity to look at the idea of queer theory is a critical lens at looking at society and the systems that we are currently in, all the binary systems, the ways in which we understand ourselves in regards to gender or sexual orientation. And we have all these systems in place that kind of tell us who we should be. And so we love the idea of playing with this idea of queer theory because what it does is it offers us an opportunity to question, right? Question these binary systems, questions what we've been taught from such a young age. And so one of our first projects was to look at, we created 3 different comic books where we had a fork and a spoon hanging out, and there was a pair of chopsticks, and the fork and the spoon looks at the chopsticks and goes, "Are you a fork or a fork or a spoon?" And the chopsticks going, "What does that mean? I don't understand." Right?
I'm a chopstick.
Right. And we relate that to how many folks have been asked, how many queer folks have been asked, "Are you the man or the woman in the relationship?" Right? It doesn't make sense, right?
Right, because you either have 2 men or 2 women.
Right, and it's borrowing this concept of that the man does certain things or is supposed to do certain things, and the woman is supposed to do certain things.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the gift of queerness, right? That we offer cis straight folks an opportunity to think beyond those binary systems. And so we were thinking about queer theory offers us freedom by questioning these norms that are made up.
Yeah, and ingrained in our society from a very, very early age. And even as I said, because it's like 2 men or 2 women, but there are actually people that don't even consider themselves male or female. Right? They're non-binary. So I just caught myself, but maybe because I am a member of the LGBTQ community, that is in my brain. But for other people, it's like, what do you mean they don't consider themselves either male or female? Is there a way to make people understand what that means? Because even sometimes myself, I get confused, right? Because it's like we live in a world that it's binary, that it's either like black or white, male or female. And how do you begin to explain to people that might not have ever heard about this, what it feels like to be, for example, non-binary?
Yeah, I think part of the conversation really is how do we think outside of the norms that we already have accepted. So I'm also vegan, and so that also brings us to a whole other conversation.
Yes.
Like where do milk come from? It comes from happy cows, right, in the fields. But we've been fed this message over and over again, and it's not necessarily true. And anyway, so I think part of it is about asking enough questions to kind of take that pill from the Matrix to wake up. And so I don't know how I would explain non-binary conforming, gender neutral, or folks who might consider themselves queer gender or fluid.
Right.
I think it's more about less explaining to someone and asking people to ask the questions. So that's one of our.
I love that. Yeah, I love that approach. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of our logo. Our Q is shaped in a question mark. So if you go to our website, you'll see the Q is, we have shirts and all that. But our Q is in the shape of a question mark because it's about asking enough questions to get ourselves to think beyond what we already know. It's not explaining, it's about interacting with our own lives and the people that we love.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and also the Q in the acronym, I've heard it both be seen as queer or questioning. So I guess it works both ways, right? It's
Right.
queer and questioning. My next question would be, how old were you when you realized that you perhaps didn't fit into the mold of what the society around you wanted you to fit into?
Well, I was raised in Eastchester. Came here when I was 2 from Hong Kong, and I was raised by my sister and my brother-in-law, and she had 2 kids before me, so I was born as an uncle.
Okay, got it.
And so I never fit in, right? Because everyone couldn't figure out, my relationship to my nephews. They would call them my brothers, my cousins, whatnot. So I think from a very young age, I knew I didn't fit in the same way. I also grew up and went to a Catholic school, mostly Italian, but for predominantly white school. And so as a person of color, as an Asian person, there was something a little bit off. Like I didn't understand why I didn't fit in, why people were making fun of me. I didn't understand the jokes that they were making. And then in addition to that, I think in regards to queerness, I guess my queerness started there, right? There was that queer, weird piece that was different. But then my gayness or bi-ness, I think very early on, I felt there was something different. I want to say like maybe first grade, second grade, something was different. I just couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah. I've been asked this question before, and I believe it was around the same time that you just said, like around the age of 6 or so, that I realized, I don't think I fit into the mold of whatever, a little 6-year-old boy is supposed to fit into. But then again, I was in Brazil, so it was a different culture, very macho, very Catholic. You went to a Catholic school. I also went to a Catholic school growing up. So it was quite interesting. And what is the difference that you see from when you were a child to the children now? Do you see any difference? Have you seen any progress? God, I hope so. But yeah.
I think in many ways we've made a lot of progress, right? So, I mean, here's something to think about. Right now, there's a movement with people who are raising children, and it's called gender creative parenting.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
What does it mean?
Right. It's this concept that parents are raising their kids without gender. And when they talk about the baby that's born, I think part of the article I read said something about like it's about they realize the baby has anatomy. They don't call it the sex of the baby.
Got it.
And they don't reveal the anatomy to anyone because no one else needs to know, right? And so that makes birthday parties and other events a little more challenging for people who conform to the binary system. But these kids are raised where they get to play with dolls or trucks or colors, dresses, pants, what have you. And the article I read said something about how the studies are showing that the kids who are typically picking their gender by age 2 or 3.
Oh.
So they at that time they're getting like a sense of who they are, and they're like, I am a boy or I'm a girl, and most of them are cisgendered,
Right.
meaning that their parts match their identity, right? And so those kids end up having a really interesting perspective of life because they were able to play with trucks or dolls or whatever have you, and not have that limitation.
Got it.
Kids who are transgender obviously have it a lot easier then, right? Because they when they pick their gender or then they realize who they are, not pick their gender, that's horrible language. But when they realize who they are, right? They're realizing this is who I am, and they're accepted. I mean, what a beautiful way to understand who you are. So that's one huge thing that's happening here right now in America,
Right.
gender creative parenting. Of course, that's not the norm, but I do think that there are more books and more teachers who are trained in this.
Sure.
I'm trained as a foster parent, and I remember one of our trainings that was mandatory is that we had to go to the LGBT center and be trained in LGBT sensitivities.
Oh.
Right, and so that's required at least in the program I went in.
That's amazing. Wow, this conversation is fascinating so far. So we're going to take a little break, but we're going to be back and talk more, okay? So for everybody watching, we're going to be back with James in a short while, so stick with us and we'll be back soon. Oi pessoal, tudo bem? Aqui é o Eric Faria, espero que você esteja curtindo aí a entrevista. E hoje eu estou aqui para falar um pouquinho sobre comunicação com vocês. Parte do trabalho que eu faço como apresentador e produtor do I Am, tanto no podcast quanto no YouTube, é realmente a parte de me comunicar com as pessoas. Eu ouço histórias, eu gosto sempre de deixar uma gotinha, alguma coisa bem interessante para você aí que está assistindo poder colocar na prática na sua vida. E eu sou coach também, eu sou coach especializado em comunicação e sinergia já há quase 6 anos. Então, a gente muitas vezes não para pensar na nossa comunicação, tanto no trabalho quanto em casa, né, no ambiente, às vezes com os amigos. Como anda a sua comunicação? Parece que às vezes é muito difícil a gente chegar até o coração e a mente de uma outra pessoa, mas na verdade não é. Então eu estou aqui para falar com você hoje. Se você quiser ter uma nova perspectiva sobre comunicação para 2019, abrir novas portas, tanto pessoal quanto profissional, eu gostaria de trabalhar com você. Então vá até o meu website, www.ericfaria.com. Lá tem as minhas redes sociais também, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube e o Twitter. E você pode entrar em contato comigo através de lá também. Então é isso, estou abrindo novas turmas, quero que você tenha uma melhor comunicação em 2019 e eu te espero lá, tá bom? Então até mais. And welcome back to I Am with Eric Faria. Once again, I am your host, and I have here with me today James Young. Just going to jump in. So, what are some of the projects, not the parents, because we're talking about foster parents.
Right.
What are some of the projects that Queery has going on right now?
Yeah, so we started with this comic book idea, and we had this drawings. It was actually an adult coloring book we created, or coloring page, and we did that for Pride. We worked with the Loft and handed it out there, and we're so lucky to have the Loft. And that's where Jeff with a G and I met.
Yeah, the Loft, for those who don't know, is LGBTQ center that there is here in Westchester County in White Plains. So yeah, they offer great services and they are amazing.
Yeah, and they have tons of groups and members and all that. So our second project is called Sticks and Stones, and this came about by accident. So we were all hanging out, went somewhere in New Paltz, and Jeff with a G saw this artwork where this man's eating a sausage, and it was like, and what was interesting is Jeff with a G and my partner Jeff with a J, they came together, thought it's a great project, we're going to create these wonderful images and whatnot, and I'll send that image so you can get them up. And I thought, I can't wrap my head around this. These are offensive images. Like I can't see myself wearing one of these images. Anyway, what we came up with was we came up with 21 anti-LGBT slurs.
Okay.
And are we allowed to say some of those words here?
Yes, yes, please.
So our very first one was teeth and the word butt, right? And so it was butt muncher. And I was like, what is this? We can't, like, we're selling, what is this? I don't understand what we're doing. And then my Jeff with a G said, you know, I read this article from The Advocate, and in The Advocate, he said that, you know, there's this article about like words we are reclaiming, the LGBT communities reclaiming. And I was like, oh, you know, I
even the word queer itself used to be a slur.
And still is
derogatory, yes, for some people, yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea was to create 21 images that are fun, whimsical, tongue-in-cheek kind of, to get people to have these conversations. So we created these. Jeff was the art director. He created all of them. And then we started showing our friends. And stories started coming out, pouring out. And like this guy said, you know what? I remember being called that. And I think it was homo at that time.
Yeah.
And he said, I remember being called that in my 20s. These guys throw Coca-Cola bottles at me as they were
wow.
driving by. And we're all sitting there stunned, like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah.
image just made him talk about the story.
Right.
And his partner says, I can't believe you never told me that. He goes, I never told anyone that. And that's the point of this project. We call it a discursive art installation, where we have these 21 images up, and people get to go in and guess what the artwork means, and then we get to share. They get to read stories of people who've posted before, and then share their own stories. And so it's about releasing all that stuff, whether they're reclaiming them for some people, and for others, maybe it's just telling a story of, gosh, I had that experience too. Because I don't know about you, but when was the last time you got to tell a story of when someone called you these names?
Right.
We typically have to shut those down.
Yeah, you don't tell unless you're, say, at the man's group at the loft, and then if the thing comes up, then you just share it. But usually, yeah, you don't talk to people about these things. And I think it's so insidious sometimes also, the way that people are treated and the way that these slurs are used to hurt them, that they don't actually want to talk about it. Because it hurts too much.
And it also is used within the community. So we have 3 panels of information. So the first one is like the common slurs, homo, dyke, you know. And then we have the more severe terms like faggot, you know. And then and there's a lot of education in there, because people don't realize that's a bundle of sticks, right? And where that came from, the history of that.
I learned about that a few years ago. I had no idea where the word came from. But yes.
So I mean, that's how we're taking queer theory and we're sharing it with the world. And then our third section is words within our community. So we have one image that says, that's an it shows electricity, and it shows the word bottom, so it's a power bottom. And we, you know, I personally think that's in some ways problematic, right? This idea of tops and bottoms. It's borrowed from the same binary system. From the heteronormative culture.
Right.
Anyway, so it's not to take away from someone if they feel like that's my identity. It's about having the conversations.
Right. I love that idea. And what is the feedback that you have been getting from the community and from people who might just be curious and want to go and see it for themselves?
Yeah. So right now, we showed it at the Loft. We showed it in Albany, Niskative, New York State Domestic Violence Coalition Against Domestic Violence. They invited us to show the work as well in Albany. We're now showing it at Manhattanville College.
Oh, nice.
And Manhattanville College over in Purchase. It's there till December 8th.
Oh,
so if
cool.
you want to check it out, it's there from, I think, Monday through Friday, 1 to 5. And then we're moving it to Queens in December.
Nice.
And the feedback we kept getting is like, people within the queer community, like a lot of stories are coming out and saying, oh my, and some people are loving it. They want to buy the artwork, right? And it's for sale. But it's kind of fun that they're like, yeah, that's what I am, a cocksucker. That's why I'm going to put that on my wall. Yeah, so it's kind of fun. And then there are other people who say, oh, that's a horrible, I remember the story. And people are sharing stories at the gallery.
Right.
Versus not being able to talk and have shame about these words.
Well, yeah, no, I can only imagine. And what has been the most surprising reaction that you, or story that you have heard so far?
You know, I really don't know. I think one of
or one that impacted you the most?
You know, I think that the stories that come from the young folks really impact me the most, because we showed it to Center Lane, which is the LGBT Youth Center, and we helped them do a writing activity for their open mic with it, and it was some powerful stuff. This one woman said, you know, why do we even need these labels, right? I mean, this idea of labels should be on clothes instead of on people. I think that's powerful, especially for your 15-year-old to be able to play with that and say, you know what? I don't want any of these. I don't want anyone to label me. I don't want to have to give myself a label. I'm just me.
Yeah. No, that's very powerful. And it just got me thinking how sometimes from our most traumatic experiences in situations when, you know, we have like slurs thrown at you, if you actually share it and release it into the world, you don't even know the ripple effect that it can have, right? Because it can open up a conversation and actually just reach out to a community that you're a part of that you didn't even know that you could in that way.
I have another quick story.
Yeah, go
So earlier today, I was at the Tarrytown Library where I belong to an Eckhart Tolle group. We read about these spiritual books and
I know
these
who he
kinds.
is, yeah.
The leader of the group came to one of our gatherings, and she has since connected. She told me today she has since reconnected with her niece, who is a transgender woman, and talked with her friend who's a lesbian, who's 82 years old. And she said, because of this, she had this opportunity to kind of have this, she said, ripple effect. So that's what made me think about it.
Yeah.
To connect with these people that she kind of felt a little shy to connect with.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we're going to take a little break. It's going to be our last segment. Can you believe it? It's like coming. But anyway, for everybody watching, stay there and just don't miss a moment. We're going to be back soon. Oi, pessoal, tudo bem? Aqui é o Eric Faria. Espero que você esteja curtindo aí a entrevista. E hoje eu estou aqui para falar um pouquinho sobre comunicação com vocês. Parte do trabalho que eu faço como apresentador e produtor do I Am, tanto no podcast quanto no YouTube, é realmente a parte de me comunicar com as pessoas. Eu ouço histórias, eu gosto sempre de deixar uma gotinha, alguma coisa bem interessante para você aí que está assistindo poder colocar na prática na sua vida. E eu sou coach também, eu sou coach especializado em comunicação e sinergia já há quase 6 anos. Então, a gente muitas vezes não para pensar na nossa comunicação, tanto no trabalho quanto em casa, né, no ambiente, às vezes com os amigos. Como anda a sua comunicação? Parece que às vezes é muito difícil a gente chegar até o coração e a mente de uma outra pessoa, mas na verdade não é. Então, estou aqui para falar com você hoje. Se você quiser ter uma nova perspectiva sobre comunicação para 2019, abrir novas portas, tanto pessoal quanto profissional, eu gostaria de trabalhar com você. Então vá até o meu website, www.ericfaria.com. Lá tem as minhas redes sociais também, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube e o Twitter. E você pode entrar em contato comigo através de lá também. Então é isso, estou abrindo novas turmas, quero que você tenha uma melhor comunicação em 2019 e eu te espero lá, tá bom? Então até mais. And welcome back to I Am with Eric Faria. Once again, I'm your host, and I have here with me James Young. So, James, you were talking about the Kickstarter, the fundraiser that you had, right? Well, how was the experience and what happened?
Oh my goodness. So earlier on, Jeff with the J said, we need how to fund this. How are we going to do it? And he created this Kickstarter. And I didn't have it in me to figure out how to do this Kickstarter. I thought, oh my gosh. So I started reaching out to people and talking about it. Everywhere I went, I was like, hey, have you heard of a Kickstarter? I was thinking this would be a good place for that. Anyway, it's over, it's done with, but we raised over $6,000. So we did meet our goal.
Wow.
Yeah. And I learned a lot about the kind of support that people can give. I think about the idea of putting it out to the universe and asking for what you need. We've made so many interesting connections with people. I know Jeff with a G talks about how he went to a Passover dinner and people, his family members and his they were all asking him about the project because of this Kickstarter, and they themselves weren't queer. So imagine these conversations. I think that's
amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the magic of Queery, right? Having the opportunity for straight folks to ask the gay person about queer stuff.
Yeah, that's the dream, right? It's what we want in a more inclusive and democratic, with a small d, world. Yeah.
Imagine someone coming to you and say, hey, listen, I heard about this word. Can you tell me more about it? Or, it was just beautiful. So we did this as a National Coming Out Day project. So that was our link. And one of the things we created from that was we created coming out cards.
Okay.
We think that Hallmark should take this on, and we should have every October, we should have a bunch of thank you for coming out to me cards. Wouldn't that be great?
That would be amazing. That would be fantastic.
Imagine you go to the thank you aisle and it says thank you for coming out to me cards. And so that if you come out to someone go, oh, you know what? I'm going to get them the perfect card.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Why haven't they thought of that? That's like untapped market. But anyway.
So we created these cards and the card says, it's a little teddy bear playing hide and seek with another toy, and on the inside it says, thank you for coming out to me. Imagine getting that card.
Yeah.
So we do sell that on the website. And I don't mean to make this all about the products that we're selling, although you can check that out. But I think the concept is what really excites me the most. When we presented this at NISCADIV, New York State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, they saw this project as a primary prevention project, meaning...
Really?
Yeah, that's why they invited us to talk about how can we change the conversation? How can we create a climate that makes it a little safer for people to have these conversations?
That is just very good. I'm so happy that they reached out to you guys and they wanted you to go. And what was the response like?
Oh my goodness, we had over 70 participants. Some of them were actual educators in high schools and colleges. And I think it was overwhelmingly positive. And we've been invited back to speak in May, which is exciting.
Cool.
To more people. But what I really love about this is that we're talking, this came up from an accident, right? This sausage-eating guy. And now we're taking this project, and what we're doing is we're trying to have people have more conversations about this. Creating a world where people are asking questions.
Yeah.
That's what we're all about, right?
Amazing.
Query, creating questions, creating an opportunity essentially for us to voice things that we typically don't get to voice, right? Talk about things that we don't get to talk about.
Yes. And where do you see the project in the future, like in the near future, 2019? Where would you like to be, and where would you like to, the people that you would like to reach out to? What do you see it?
Yeah, well, Jeff with a J is the business guy, and he says we're going to be at Pride New York City. That's what he wants to do.
So
It's the
next
50th,
June,
right?
yes.
It's the 50th anniversary. It's huge.
Yeah. I'll be there too.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
We'll see you. And so, I come from a not-for-profit background, and I think one of the ways I think about this is I would like for everyone to be able to have these conversations. I would like people to have our T-shirts, and then people go, "What's that question mark about?" And then have the conversation, right? Instead of not being able to be out. Like rainbows should not be the only places where we feel safe, right? We also are thinking about our next project, our next art project, which is I'm letting the cat out of the bag because we haven't really fully talked about it. So you're getting like an exclusive here. But we're thinking about calling it NBC, non-binary conforming. To take the artwork and play with non-binary systems, to get people to think, why is that we think in one way or the other?
Yeah.
Can we think about this more deeply? Can we be more critical in our thinking? And therefore, I think, Eric, the biggest thing is that we free ourselves from these systems that don't serve us.
Beautiful. I just love everything about it. I think that it's a conversation not just worth having, but life-saving.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really, I really do think so. And that's why I wanted to have you here on the show. And for somebody like you, who, you are a queer man of color, and in this world that we live in 2018, going into 2019, what would you like to see in terms of progress for LGBTQ people in the year ahead? Where do you think that we still have to go and walk toward?
Whenever I think about the future, I think about the past, and I just think about and the past isn't that far. So I think about, I know it's freezing right now, but I'm thinking about August, and how in August, Giovanni, 9-year-old, came out to his mother, was fine, got bullied at school, and then came home and committed suicide.
Oh.
And then in September, we had, actually that was Jamel. And then in September, Giovanni, who was 14 in Nevada, he came out and his dad said, "I'd rather have a dead son than a gay son," and shot him. I would like to see less of those kinds of incidents.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I think our conversation is about. It's about having people consider maybe that people are people, and we get to all exist. We get to all work together. We get to, whenever we're challenged with something, maybe we can ask ourselves, why does this feel challenging? And I think that's part of our political discourse right now, right? Which is whenever we're challenged, we shut people down.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is...
And we shut down ourselves too. Yeah.
Yes. So, one of the things I think that Queery does is it has helped me figure out, whenever I feel challenged, maybe I could do more questioning about this. Maybe I can be more of a scout and do more of a recon mission before I just shut down all these ideas. I think that's part of the mission of Queery. And I think that's my personal mission in my own life. If I can ask more questions, maybe I may not get the answer, but I get to have more answers.
More
and
answers,
more
yeah.
solutions.
More voices, more perspectives, yes. I love the whole thing about this. And like you said, the past is not that far back. You know, it's going to be a 50th anniversary in 2019 of the Stonewall Inn riots. So that wasn't that long ago, 1969. In terms of history, that was yesterday. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
I hope that this reaches out an ever-growing number of people, you know, in the state of New York, in other states, you know, why not Connecticut, New Jersey, the tri-state area, and then expand to other parts of the country. And before we go, is there any movie, piece of literature, music, art, something related to queer theory that you think is important and that you would like for people to seek out
Oh my goodness!
and experience for themselves?
Yeah, you know, I wrote this thing. We're trying to keep a blog on our website, so at queery.us, I wrote a blog about tops and bottoms.
Okay.
And so what I borrowed from different places, and I'm playing with this concept of why do we need to consider tops and bottoms, and why are there assumptions and stigmas that assumes that tops are more powerful or
More manly.
Right, yeah. And I think that a new article might be coming soon about gender and gender expression as well.
Great. So people can just go on the website and check it out.
Yeah, right.
All right. Thank you so much for being here, James. It was a pleasure to have you. I wish you, like I said, the best with the project.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So, for everybody watching, thank you so much. I will see you next week with a new episode. And until then, take care of yourself.